How's it going, everybody, and welcome all into another edition of the unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. I'm Zach Farmer. That's Thomas Dunn. And yes, it's been a while. We've both been kind of like recuperating, busy doing our things. But we are back, and obviously there's plenty to go over of what's been happening in the WCC, in college basketball, and everywhere in between. So in this episode, we're going to talk NBA draft. We know about Alan Graves being still in it, so we're going to talk about him, his prospects, and all of that. We're going to talk about maybe a bit more NBA topics on this one. An NBA championship with the Knicks and everything else, and we'll get into that. But honestly, like the news breaking Monday morning that we have no choice but to start with Dusty May leaving Michigan, getting the head coaching job with the Dallas Mavericks, which obviously not necessarily comes out of nowhere, meaning has a national championship. It's as high of highs as you're going to have as a head coach. But the timing of it is just like, we're going to see, I think, some chaos here in the next couple of weeks of the aftermath of what happens with Dusty May leaving, because now they need a head coach. What happens with all their roster guys? Does that mean that the poaching of the Wolverines is going to begin? What's the trickle down of, do other guys get booted off teams? What sort of shuffling do we have? Because seeing this in the middle of June on the eve of the NBA draft is a wild timing to see this coaching change.
I mean, you can't have your peace anymore. I mean, you can't even wake up on a Monday morning in the late of June and be like, yeah, I'm just going to assume the national champion will have their coach going into next season. Nope, not the case anymore. And it's just, I mean, there's no really pop-ups or leaks of this to my knowledge, like before it actually took place. It was just kind of like, when you kind of drop like an anvil right in front of you on your foot, it's like, oh, here you go. And I mean, I'm shocked. I'd say more so than Michigan. I'd say I'm more intrigued with the domino effect of this. Like, what other teams does this kind of affect down the line? Where do some players end up moving? The hard part about this is, and you kind of hinted at it already, rosters are already filled out. Summer workouts are already underway. Like, these teams are basically set. At least for me, the immediate reaction is that Michigan's going to have to go with the group that they got, including with interim head coach Mike Boynton. So I don't think they're going to be really stuff. I don't think there's going to be stuff on the move for this season. I don't think, but next season is when, for the guys who are still eligible and aren't going to the NBA, it's like, yeah, I mean, I signed up for Dusty May ball and I don't got that anymore. So that's where I think about. Then I think about the downstream effects and where does Michigan go for coach? We still have Gonzaga in the conference for 9 days. Do they make the call to Mark Few? I don't know. We'll see. But just because all that is it's all relevant now. I mean, I don't think you can really shoehorn anybody into any single spot at any part of the country.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of, obviously, like the premier jobs in the sport, and obviously Michigan is spending the money to try to get whoever they want. So who that actually means, I mean, I saw one name that popped up out of nowhere. It was like, well, not out of nowhere, but could they end up poaching Todd Golden from Florida or somebody like that to head up there? Obviously, he's had enough success at Florida to probably do whatever he wants with the Gators, but doing it in Michigan, like, there is kind of a different prestige to an extent of doing it with the Wolverines and in the Big Ten. But it may not have like the ripple effect right now because of NIL, because of the money that's been spent, rosters that are already full. But I'm sure that we're going to see probably a player or two see if there's a better package out there with a coach maybe that they more likely want to play for. Again, if they signed up for Dusty May and he's not there anymore, they're going to be given the license to at least look and see what possibilities there are. It's just going to be interesting to see what is left out for any of these players, because I can't imagine that we're going to see a lot of the back of the roster mid-tier guys go many places, but there could be someone who bankrolls one of the stars coming in to go elsewhere. So it's the timing of it is just chaotic for Michigan. Yeah, the ripple effects of what we see down the road are going to be interesting to see in the sport in general.
Yeah, I mean, the place where you were 12 hours ago versus the place you are now, and especially as you kind of if there are coaches who have like left roster spots open, like you've kind of, I don't want to say you've struck gold, but you've allocated your resources, mission failed successfully, so to speak. Like you didn't fail at your team, but you damn sure have an opportunity to make some noise happen, and that's a we'll let that kind of kick the can down the road, so to speak, and we'll switch gears to another NBA topic because it's not the only NBA thing going on, and this one specifically related to our WCC musings. We got an NBA champion, Mike Brown, and it's at a certain point, and I feel like people who watch enough basketball kind of understand this, is you kind of know when a championship team kind of has that it factor, and you're like, it just seems like their year. And when I look at the New York Knicks from this year, it's like when they just wasted Philly and Cleveland, like just wasted them. It's like, that this isn't the Knicks team that was fool around with their food and lose game one or game two in MSG, although they did do that to the Hawks in the first round. But just in general, it's like this team it felt like the nuts and bolts were a little bit more screwed in compared to years past. And then, I mean, against a fellow WCCer and Mitch Johnson to a certain degree in the NBA Finals, it was just like Mike Brown at the end of the day, we just would not be denied with his team. And I mean, it was super fun to watch that NBA Finals run, and congrats to the Knicks, 53 years. My KSCU back in my day, one of my predecessors, Jack Benjamin, still coming down from the high of being at the Knicks parade and such, and being a native New Yorker. But it was cool to see the players step up. Cool to see Mike Brown step up because, I mean, him and De'Aaron Fox, for different reasons, left Sacramento, and now they look like the worst franchise in the league right now. And Mike Brown is holding the Larry O'Brien Trophy off a coaching masterclass in the postseason.
I mean, it was amazing to see because, I mean, so often we think of, especially New York teams, like most everyone around the country think has the general agreement of like New York fans just bug the hell out of everybody. They're annoying. They're like, they seem like overly privileged, especially like Yankee fans, or like you think about like that sort of those New Yorkers. But and even the Knicks like maybe got way more attention over the last like 30 years than maybe they should have. But this was such a likable team. This was I think the epitome of that word. They were a team. And I think having a guy like, again, I think the one part about this Knicks team I always loved was that Villanova connection, that you had college teammates on this squad. And it wasn't just like, obviously, like Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and Mikal Bridges. I mean, they had Dante DiVincenzo a year ago. They had Diacono a few years back. Like this, there's been a solid Villanova connection on this Knicks franchise over the last like half decade. And obviously, as we know how successful they were in the last like decade and a half, winning a couple national championships of their own, and showing how much that experience I think did matter. I mean, like a lot of these guys hadn't been to the finals. Yes, OG Anunoby had been there, and Mike Brown had been there, but you could see just the veteran experience, and the moment was never too big for those guys. And I think that's something that showed very quickly in that finals, where yeah, it's like they were down for a good chunk of the series, but every single night they clawed their way back into that game. Obviously, you could talk about the 29-point comeback, and just again, regardless of if you're like Knicks fan, basketball fan, like non-sports fan, that was one of those sports moments that just rings like through. It's going to just ring forever because of how improbable, how impossible that seemed to be in that moment. And I mean, the parade and everything else was an amazing sight. God, only Mike Brown, it feels like, could have brought who let the dogs out back from the dead. Good God.
Yeah, hey, and Jalen Brunson, clearly the biggest fan of when he does so. I would reenact it, but I don't want to not do it justice. But I'll let you guys go scour the web if you haven't seen it. Mike Brown, who let the dogs out, worth your time. And just one more basketball related thing on that. I mean, we talk about how the players, and you mentioned how they stepped up in this finals, but at least for me, when I look at his coaching specifically, the adjustment to put in Jose Alvarado as a secondary ball handler, like I like that because the Spurs defenders were very physical with Brunson, and they could throw a lot of them. They could throw in Stephon Castle, they could throw in a Dylan Harper, they could throw in a Devin Vassell, they could just throw in a bunch of bodies to kind of wear down Brunson, and then in certain games you saw Alvarado come in, kind of take the load off, and just kind of get the ball moving, get the offense going. And I thought that was a nice adjustment for Mike Brown, all things considered. And you look at his journey, champion with the Warriors, champion in Northern California, champion with the if I'm or
with the Spurs,
and then obviously success in his own right in certain respects with Cavaliers. It's like this is somebody who has been there, done that, and executed on the highest stage. So a massive credit to Mike Brown for earning it. And I'll be intrigued to see if that Larry O'Brien makes its way to USD in the next year or so. I wouldn't rule it out, and I think maybe J.R. Blount or Kimya Massey can work something up, I think.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, he was there last year for that coaches clinic where a bunch of the guys came down, Mike Brown being one of them. And I mean, USD has had its own line of coaching annals into the NBA. Bernie Bickerstaff, Eric Musselman, David Fizdale, James Borrego, like Mike Brown. Like this is a school that has produced NBA head coaches for the last like X number of years, and it is kind of an amazing, unique path that, or at least like just the way that the San Diego program has been able to produce guys who know how to coach the game, know how to teach the game, and have success at that level. And now Mike Brown kind of reaching that pinnacle of doing that. And he also had that experience with both of our NBA squads. Obviously, Mike Brown, like with the Warriors, an assistant for so long, but he got to start with the Nuggets way back when Bernie Bickerstaff brought him on board. So there was both of our squads, like the Nuggets and the Warriors, have the Mike Brown connection. So this is one that it's a fun thing to see, and yeah, I'm sure we're gonna see that Larry O'Brien trophy make it to USD in probably over the next few months.
I'm excited for that. And speaking of NBA and developments, I think I'm just the segue guy today, to be quite honest. People will see the shirt I've been wearing in this. You wonder why are you wearing the branding more than usual? Well, there's going to be another Bronco off the board, the third in 5 years, coming from the NBA draft green room, and Alan Graves. And Zach kind of low key teed me up because I'm going to ask him a question. Actually, permission to be selfish, real quick.
All right, I guess.
Alan Graves to the Denver Nuggets, please. Pick 26. That is what I would like. And the thing is we know the way he plays is he's going to beat you with his smarts. He's going to beat you with his IQ, his hands, his physicality. I think there's so much of the little things he does well. And when you project him into the NBA, I think the one thing is he's going to get adjusted to more than anything is the game speed. You're not going to have the time to shoot the rock. I mean, if you're some of those wide open threes he was getting from his guards at Santa Clara on the wing, you got NBA guys who can close out and then some in terms of making up ground and stuff like that. So you're not going to get those, like the spacing won't be as pristine in certain respects, and it'll be as good, if not better, in others. But I think just getting up to speed with the athleticism of the sport, with the way some of these guys are kind of the way they operate. I mean, everyone has their own like welcome to the NBA moment. I mean, Jalen Williams, it was game one of his career. He got poked in the eye by Jaden McDaniels, and it was not a great showing on that front. But as he kind of grew into the game and kind of got more reps, you kind of see how much he's ascended. Brandon Podziemski, in certain respects, he's had some ups and some downs at times, but overall he seems to have adjusted overall to the NBA. And I think the same goes for Alan Graves. He does a lot of good things well. I do think there's going to be an adjustment period, and I'm intrigued to see what team kind of takes him. I selfishly want him on the Nuggets, but we got lots of problems, and I don't know if Alan's going to fix every single one.
And I think that's the one thing. I mean, Alan Graves is one of those guys he's almost like the coach's dream, because he does so many of the little things. He does a lot of the dirty work. And like as a coach, like you don't have to teach him that. He's just going to go do those things, and you don't have to worry about that. Obviously, he's going to have to get coached up to get that shot off a little faster. The ball handling and the shot creation is going to have to get better. The speed of the game is always just an adjustment for any guy coming out. But just even thinking about like where he is in the window of, because I've seen him on a couple draft boards going at 20 to the Spurs. I saw him at 26 on one of the boards going to Denver. So it seems like those 20s is probably going to be his sweet spot. I mean, I do kind of look up and see OKC at 17, and I'm like, well, they've had some pretty good success with WCC guys and Santa Clara guys in the past. So I wonder if they would move up, maybe take him a little earlier than maybe some others would. San Antonio, I mean, on the face does seem like a good fit for him, but I'm also like, I mean, the Spurs coming off the finals, like, they don't need more young guys. They need some veteran experience on that squad. I'd almost feel like you use some of that draft capital to go get a vet to fill out that roster, because that's more to me what they would need. But I'm looking at Alan Graves, like he's going to fit whatever the team needs, and I think that's one of the benefits of him. He's going to be raw. He's still only 19 years old. It's going to take some time for him to build into that physicality, build into the speed of the game. But the one thing I think is going to be useful for him is that he does all those little things well, that will keep a young player around and on a roster, and at least like be in a good spot where coaches are like, oh, if I need someone to just get on the ground and dive for a ball or just play defense, and I don't have to worry about him getting a shot, that's Alan Graves. I don't have to worry about him getting that. He'll figure out a way to get some buckets here and there, but I don't have the game plan for an Alan Graves.
What I will say is, just in terms of entertaining for argument's sake, you mentioned the Spurs and maybe not getting a little bit more youth, but where did they get kind of bullied in the NBA Finals? It was the forward position. Like, they're starting four guards. You got, Fox, Harper, Vassell, and Champagny. There wasn't like that, mid-tier beef, so to speak. I mean, you had Anunoby, who could back down whoever. He could jump over anybody. Mikal Bridges, who, despite being lanky, has the length to kind of go around those guys. So when you look at kind of the way the forward position shook out in the NBA Finals, that was kind of and Josh Hart, who, even though he's a guard, he plays like a forward. Like, there was so much of that kind of physicality in mid-tier that really went the Knicks' way. So when I look at the Spurs, it's, yes, I do see the reasons and arguments why you would get a veteran, and maybe it's a veteran forward. I just know that forward was the consistent part where they kept getting beat. And I look at it and I say, well, Alan Graves is someone who can play a pretty good forward. And you're not putting him in there to be small ball five. That's not going to work. So when I look at the Spurs like equation and calculus, I wouldn't necessarily hate it if they went with Alan Graves to try and get into the forward spot. But I do see the arguments for getting more vets. I've seen some others mock drafts kind of look at the Philadelphia 76ers, and I kind of don't hate the landing spot. I don't really dislike any of the target range of where he's at right now, because you have a lot of good teams in that area. You have a lot of good veterans, a lot of people who he can learn from, which I think is also important. Like, he has his own skill. And we both believe in it. We know the coaches in and around those ranks are largely pretty good. But I think you can also have like the mentorship. You can also have like kind of someone who can help steer the ship for him. I think that also is just as important. So I think the target range overall of where he's been mocked, I've largely been encouraged by in terms of situation. And then we'll just have to wait and see how the card saw is currently doing NBA draft media right now. So it's going to be it's coming fast and the furious this week.
I mean, the one thing I also look at is also there's something about track record of the school. And yes, you look at the last few years, Jalen Williams might be just like kind of a bit of the outlier, just because of his skill set, his size, and everything else. But when you look at Brandon Pajemski, Pod's like we weren't sure what he was going to be in the NBA. And one of the things obviously he made his name on in year one was the fact that he took charges better than anybody in the league for a while. He rebounded well as a guard. He passed well. Yes, like the shooting was definitely up and down, and his ability to play defense has been in question, but overall, you could see like how serviceable of a player Brandon Pajemski has been. And I know Warriors fans have very, very hot and cold feelings about Pods in the way that he's used in the roster that he's on. But you can see just like the work ethic is there. Jalen Williams, the work ethic is there. So when you think about Santa Clara players, you know that work ethic is going to be there. And so that is something that is going to that should translate for Alan Graves going into the league. And Yeah, I mean, he is the youngest of these guys who's going to be coming in. I mean, Pajemski had a couple of years under his belt before he made the jump to the league. Jalen Williams had been around for 3 years before he made the jump. So this is slightly new territory for a Santa Clara player to make the jump so early after 1 year and, of course, a redshirt year with the Broncos as well. But I mean, this is I think you're right about the teams and the slot season that he's not going to have too much pressure put on him because these are already likely playoff teams. They're looking to fill a role. There's already kind of likely established veterans on most of these squads that can kind of help him kind of grow and improve his game. And always for younger players, I feel like that's the better landing spot. Now, can that potentially like limit the ceiling? It could potentially if there's a couple of guys in front of them that are clearly not going anywhere. But I think for someone like Grays, it gives him the opportunity to ease into the NBA style, the NBA speed, and without that level of pressure that he has to live up to a lottery pick or whatever else some of the other guys will end up being.
Co-sign all that, and the last thing I'll ride with in terms of I want to see what his draft fit is. Draft night fit, like they always like showcase like what the suit or tuxedo is, and I'm like, I'm intrigued to see kind of what Alan Graves does. I'd be intrigued to see if he does anything relating to Ponchatoula, his hometown in Louisiana. I mean, he's really physically putting them way out there on the map because Ponchatoula is not exactly not exactly a big name city, I should say. So Alan Graves continuing to elevate, and I mean, all things considered, was a great representative in the WCC and for the Broncos this season.
And thinking about like him as an NBA guy, I mean, we've seen obviously we talked about the success of the Santa Clara guys recently, and I mean, it's also one of those moments of looking around the WCC. And of course, like over the years, we've talked about how the WCC as a whole has done a fairly good job of getting guys in the draft. Obviously, most heavily that was Gonzaga, getting guys in Santa Clara over the last few years. We've seen USF obviously get a couple guys in as of late. And it does kind of start with the new look WCC coming in. Gonzaga's gone. You're down Washington State, Oregon State. There are definitely some really nice pieces coming into the league this year. And obviously we'll start to talk about that as we go along throughout the course of the season. We'll definitely start to talk about who's maybe some of those draft possibilities amongst the new WCC players or even the returning WCC players, which honestly, like I think the number of returners you might be able to fit on both of your hands. Like there are not that many that are returning to the WCC, but some really, really good names, some intriguing names as well that are coming into the league. Some top 50, top 100 players as well, which we'll get into in another episode. But I know this was a lot of heavy NBA talk so in this episode. Hey, it's draft time. It's one of those like, do you have draft night plans now that like you're almost getting into a little bit of a rhythm here with Santa Clara guys in the draft?
Yeah, I kind of got to carve out some time in doing so. I mean, it's a big week this week for many of us, at least for me. Like I'm tuned in the NBA draft. I've been watching the College World Series that ends tonight as of our recording. I got NASCAR in the Bay Area this weekend, so we got just a lot of small things, a lot of small goals to kind of achieve. But yes, I am starting to carve out time on a yearly basis when it comes to the NBA draft for the Santa Clara Broncos.
We've got World Cup in the Bay also on this week too.
U.S. men's national team's round of 32 in the Bay Area. So hey, that might be the most expensive ticket known to mankind. So we'll see how it all shakes out. There's a lot to like right now about the Bay Area sports scene.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the pod on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Follow along on social media at Unofficial WCC Pod. That's Thomas. I'm Zach. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will catch you later.